It started basically when the murder of the officer, and unbeknownst to me, it was like some girls had got raped prior to that, and that's what led to that, and they somehow tied me in to the actual case.
Do you remember the first time you were arrested and what that felt like for you? Like, what were you thinking? What was going through your mind?
I was really numb because they came at me with such force, and I'm like, I haven't done anything to create this type of situation where a bunch of police officers come into the high school to even question me or even ask me about anything. But they took me to my locker and they searched my locker, and they took me from there. They took me to the city jail, and there was a lot of talking. I was like in a room, and then from there they took me to a guy named Flemings. He was a lie detector guy. They took me down there to take a test, and from there they took me to the county jail, made me stand against the county jail before they took me into the juvenile center. They made me stand against the county jail, took pictures of me, and later on I found out they took him to the victim for her that identified me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they arrested me, I spent the night at the juvenile center, LCJC.
Yeah.
And the next morning they waved me over to adult court. And I spent from November 19th until February 82 until I was convicted in the county jail.
Oh, wow.
I was never allowed to make bond. Each time my family try to make bond, they stack some more charges against me, so I couldn't make bond. So that continued until I went to trial.
In 82?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you went and you served the whole prison sentence before you got your conviction overturned, right?
Yeah, I was on the street when they turned that over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those, how many years were you in prison then?
17 and a half.
Where did you serve it all?
The majority of it was in Michigan City, and the latter part was in Westfield Correctional Facility.
Oh, wow. All those years while you were there, what was that like?
It was hell. It was really hell. The 83 year was, I just can't really never shake that one, because they literally burned a guy up in a cell, and that was right down from me, and smelling burnt flesh for like years, because I still stayed in that cell house on that particular range. That was to hear him holler, that still stays with me today, for that man to be burned up in a cell like that.
And then is it hard in prison to navigate and stay safe and?
Well, I had a rape case.
Yeah.
So it was, they hard on guys with rape cases, but for some reason they wasn't hard on me, because they gave me a case with Mr. Mays. Mr. Mays was a street guy. They knew Mr. Mays was a street guy, and for what they charged him with, they know that really wasn't Mr. Mays' MO. And for him to be, saying that I was his co-defendant, well, they knew that was garbage, because I was a kid. Mr. Mays, he ran with people of his character. So I wasn't of his character, so they knew it was something funny. So I pretty much got a pass on that. But it still didn't stop, the guys talking, the verbal abuse about the case,
Right.
For the guys that didn't really know, they just knew that I was charged with rape.
When did you find out? Because Larry Mays, he was exonerated first on the DNA. How did you find out that DNA was there and that you could file a petition for post-conviction?
Professor Fran Hardy called me. She's Watson now.
Yeah.
She called me.
At IU.
Well, she got in touch with my parole officer. He called me and see if it was okay for her to contact me, and I agreed to it. And from then on, she's been a heaven sent. Even to this day, she's still a heaven sent. When I first got out, I was working janitorial work because
Okay.
that's basically all I could get.
Mm-hmm.
But I was lucky to find a barber shop that was needing a barber,
Yeah.
and eventually I ended up taking over that shop, and I owned that. I ran that shop for 10 years.
In 2012, when you found out that how did you find out you were charged?
Well, they arrested me. It was like the first day of summer. I was through driving the bus for that season, and I was on my way to another barber shop because I was working in another barber shop at that time. And they stopped me. Cars coming in everywhere, and they arrested me. They took me to Maryville first before taking me to Crown Point. I never understood that. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. This was like, what? Are you serious? I've done 17 and a half years, and you coming back with this? I'm like, what happened? In 17 and a half years, you couldn't come up with anything? But it was basically because I had filed that lawsuit.
Yeah. Do you feel like it was retaliation?
It's definitely retaliatory.
What makes you think so?
But once again, I'm going to have to be careful here.
Yeah.
They dismissed it. But each time that it was time for me to go to federal court for litigation or whatever, they would do something to stop it. And by this last time they gave me this murder case, I was right there at mediation, a couple months away, and they know once they arrested me, they will stop everything. So, yeah, it was retaliatory. Of course it was. It can't be nothing but that.
How much time did you spend in jail and in prison again because of the murder case?
In all, with both times, because they charged me twice with the murder.
Yeah.
So it might have been a total of 5 months. And with the sentence they gave me, it was like 2 years, 8 months, somewhere in there.
That you served before?
This last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you look back and you think about all those years, how do you feel about having lost all that time?
It's bad, because you can't replace that time. You can't replace the people you lost. Just no substitute for stuff like that. I have a son that's 43 years old. I barely know him because of all this.
He was 1.5 when you first got
Yeah.
arrested at 17?
Yeah.
How, did he live with you or
He lived down the street from me
with his mom?
with his mom.
But you were involved
Yeah.
in his life?
Hmm.
And then were you not able to?
I couldn't do nothing because, I was locked up. I was locked up.
I don't know how he's done as well as he's done, because I still have yet to see another case where not once but twice somebody was convicted of different offenses and had those convictions set aside because the state failed to provide evidence that they were in possession of that was exculpatory. It's been the law since the 60s that the government has an obligation under the Due Process Clause of the Constitution, of the 14th Amendment. If you have evidence, if you come into possession of evidence that either would tend to show the defendant didn't commit the crime, or even if it's evidence that would potentially reduce the punishment for conviction of a crime. The government has to. It has to take efforts to see if they have such evidence, and they have to disclose it to the defense. And they didn't.
It's just, I just can't believe this was. I wouldn't have believed this if I was hearing it on somebody else telling a story. I just couldn't believe that that could happen to a person in America.
Yeah.
You know, that's just hard. It's just hard to believe that they was able to do this to my life. You know, but I'm like, hey, I don't know what might happen tomorrow. You know, I might have a nervous breakdown. I don't know. But right now, today, I just got to stay prayed up. Because I've been through some stuff.